on, girl, let's scream.
I am a god.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel. This is the part where you run.
Come on, scream.
Hello, and welcome to Let's Scream, a podcast where we dive into our favorite horror movies. I'm Parker.
And I'm Stevie.
And today we're looking at 1968's Rosemary's Baby, directed by Roman Polanski.
Join us as we journey to the BRAMFORD and learn all about tannis root.
Tannis root. Girl, are you ready to scream?
Girl,
let's scream! Okay, so happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
We're doing this movie for Mother's Day because it's about, motherhood, of course.
Absolutely.
We're discussing Rosemary's Baby, a classic.
Yes.
So I had never seen this movie until like a month ago.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it. I was like, oh my God, this shit is so good. I was so riveted. I loved all the filmmaking. I thought Farrow was just brilliant in this movie.
Yeah.
I love her performance. I love the story. And it's honestly became a new obsession. I was like, yep, top favorite horror movies for sure. And I was like, we got to cover it soon because I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then you watched it for the first time recently.
I really liked it. I think it's really well directed. I love the fashion and the costume.
Oh my God, right.
I'm like, wow.
Everything is
People used to know how to dress.
well made back then too.
And I miss that.
Ugh, I know.
And
yeah, Rosemary, the character, she's so stylish.
Yeah, and then I really enjoy the set designs. I think are really good. I love the apartment, I think the cinematography is great. My only complaint that I had was I said to you was there's a couple moments, like 2 or 3 moments, where the edit is very jarring. Where I guess the scene ending and going into another scene, like the transitions between scenes is very harsh and abrupt, because I thought a scene was still going on and then all of a sudden there was a weird time jump or stuff happened that we didn't see. And so you point out one when it comes to her haircut later in the scene in the movie. And so I that was my only complaint. I don't think it takes away from the story. It just kind of I thought was jarring.
You didn't realize, but I explained to you that the editor was given over 4 hours of footage.
Which then made sense to me, because now I'm kind of wait, is there a longer version of it?
Yeah, and Polanski was here, just figure it out. I don't know, this is what I shot. There was never a released longer cut.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, I would sit and watch a 4-hour version of this movie. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's brilliant.
I wonder if it even exists anymore.
I don't know. Probably not, to be honest.
It's sad.
I feel like we haven't done too many 60s movies.
Yeah.
And I just feel like they're so stylish, and I love that shit.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite overall era of horror. My favorite is definitely the 70s.
Yes,
but this movie is it's very late 60s, so it's kind of still in that era.
Yeah.
I would love to do some Hitchcock, some Psycho, some The Birds.
Yes.
Some Rear Window. So maybe we can do a month where we do all Hitchcock movies.
Yes, that would be awesome.
But before we really get into the review, I did want to give, a backstory for this movie. Do some research, because I like to do that for these classic horror movies. And this one I think has a really interesting backstory. So we're also going to get into some discussion about death of the author and shit like that, because it is a Roman Polanski movie and he's a horrible, terrible human being.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that a little too. It's just all interesting. Are you ready to get into this kind of backstory?
Girl, my name is Roman. Last name is Zelensky.
Yeah, we like Roman Zelensky, not Roman
no relations
Polanski.
to Roman Polanski.
Exactly. We like the Nicky one. Okay, so horror icon William Castle. It all started with him. We talked about him in our The Tingler episode when Vanity Rex was here. Yeah. She is a huge fan of Vincent Price, who starred in that movie. But the director was William Castle, and he produced all these gimmick movies in the early 60s. But he wanted to be taken seriously at some point. It was around this time. And so he was given an advance copy of this book, just randomly. It hadn't even been published yet. It was called Rosemary's Baby by IR11. And he just fell in love with the story and wanted to make a movie about it.
Yeah.
So he went to the director of Paramount, Robert Evans, who would only allow Castle to produce the movie. Which just kind of sucks because he really wanted to like make like a serious movie. He made all these hokey pokey jokey movies.
Yeah.
But the guy was like, no, you can produce it though. I want like a more artsy director, a more serious director. So they suggested Hitchcock, who I think is very influential in this movie. Like you can see bits and pieces of Hitchcock horror from that time period.
Yeah.
Eventually, after Hitchcock said no, he was too busy, he didn't want to do it, they sought after Roman Polanski, who was mainly just famous as a European director at the time. He did all these artsy films, and they were like, let's see if he could do it.
Yeah.
They sent him the early copy of the book, and he fell in love with it, and he immediately went to work, and he started adapting. He spent like 3 weeks, I think, adapting the book into a screenplay. And the screenplay is famously known as the most faithful adaptation of a book to screen, like ever in the history of cinema. And I read the book in preparation for this podcast. Well, I listened to the audiobook.
Yeah.
I have issues when it comes to
but
finishing
you read
books, but I read it, right?
You read it. It's reading. Keaton said it's reading, and Keaton's a librarian, so...
Right.
If Keaton says that, I'm like, okay.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So I read the book, and all of the dialogue, pretty much word for word, is in the movie from the book. Mm-hmm. So as far as casting goes, Mia Farrow was ultimately cast as Rosemary for being well-known in TV, and also she had been newly married to...
And she is...
Frank Sinatra.
Beautiful.
Oh, she's gorgeous.
That was like one of the first things I said to Keaton when watching it, because I'd never seen it. Keaton has. And I was like, she's just beautiful.
Oh, she's like a doll. Yeah.
And she's just, the whole movie, she's gorgeous. Like,
she can pull off that fucking haircut.
Yeah.
It's hard to pull off a pixie.
It's hard, and she does it.
And she does it beautifully.
It's gorgeous.
But yeah, she was known for being married to Frank Sinatra, the famous jazz singer. Robert Redford and Jack Nicholson were potential choices for the role of Guy, which I could see that both of those would have been really interesting takes. But eventually it was cast as John Cassavetes. The rest of the cast were picked based off of drawings that Roman Polanski made. He'd be like, here, drew a person, and be like, cast me somebody that looks like that. And I want like kind of an old-timey actor he wanted for these like more supporting roles.
Yeah.
So that's how we got the rest of the cast. The shoot for this film was very long. It like went like way over time and way over budget apparently. Because he has this like meticulous eye for detail. He's like a Kubrick kind of.
Yes.
He fought with Cassavetes, the guy who plays Guy, because Cassavetes really wanted to improv a lot of his shit. Like he felt more comfortable not sticking so hardly to the material. But Polanski was like, no, you need to stay to the script. And so they butted heads. And I think that informs his performance quite a bit because you can tell, because the character of Guy is a guy who's choosing his words very wisely.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's kind of putting on an act as we go through it.
Yeah.
And I think that actually, like, worked really well in his favor.
Yeah, because he kind of... I don't like him.
Right.
And I think that adds to him.
Yeah.
Because it seems like he's more like, oh, he has anger issues. He's really trying to control himself.
Yes. That's exactly right.
So it's kind of like... that may not have been the intention, but I think it works.
I think it works totally well. Exactly. So I thought that was interesting learning that, right? Poor Mia Farrow.
Oh, no.
Was served divorce papers on set by Frank Sinatra because he was getting ready to star in a movie and he wanted her to like star in the movie with him, and he wanted her to quit Rosemary's Baby, even though it would have been a bigger role for her. And like, definitely, I mean, like, thank God she ended up going through with it because it was her standout performance of her career. But he was, like, shitty about it. And this was the 60s where it was all about the man and, like, he was the most important part of the relationship.
He divorced her over that?
On set.
He's dead, right?
Yeah, Frank Sinatra is so dead. What do you mean?
Good.
I mean, I love Frank Sinatra is one of the most influential singing voices of all time.
But fuck him.
But, like, that's such a dick move.
Is Nancy Mia's baby child?
No, I don't think so. But a lot of people think that Rowan Farrow is maybe, like, there's speculation that he was Frank's. Even though, like, it's never been confirmed. But he looks just the fuck like Frank. He has, like, the same blue eyes and everything.
Oh, damn.
But I think that this really informs Mia's performance as well.
Yeah.
Because, damn, she's kind of going through some similar, like, misogynistic shit in her life. And she's kind of being gaslit by her real-life husband.
Yep.
And guilt-tripped. And that's exactly what Guy does to her in this movie. So I think that's really cool, too. But, yeah, Mia doubled the fuck down. And she committed. And she turns in this amazing performance. I think it's one of the best performances in horror, honestly. I think she sells the fuck out of it. And then, fun fact, the actress Ruth Gordon from Harold and Maude, she plays Minnie in this movie. And she won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for her performance in this movie.
Oh my God, good for her.
And I totally see it because her performance is amazing.
Yeah.
She does such a good job of being, like, equally obnoxious and also, like, charming. Like, I don't know how she does it.
Yes.
I love Minnie, even though she freaks me the fuck out.
Yes.
So following the film's release, many people have speculated that this film has a curse on it, which I think is cool. I love hearing stories like this in Hollywood about cursed films. From my research, it doesn't seem as cursed as movies like The Exorcist or The Poltergeist, which, like, famously is so cursed. And whenever we cover those movies, that'll be a big part of, like, going into the history of that, too.
Yeah.
But there's been many unfortunate events that have occurred involving its cast and crew since the film came out. So, for starters, Roman Polanski's wife, actress Sharon Tate, who was pregnant at the time,
Was murdered.
was famously
They were
murdered.
trying to get him.
She was murdered by the Manson family cult in 1969.
Yeah.
So there's that. So that's a huge one,
Yeah.
right? The same year, the composer of this movie, Christoph Komeda, was accidentally pushed off a balcony by his friend who was drunk, and he suffered from a brain hemorrhage and died.
Oh my God.
And then the dude who accidentally pushed him, like, mysteriously died 2 months later. Then, of course, we can't address this movie. We can't discuss it without talking about the crimes of Roman Polanski. Yeah. So his whole thing, if you don't know, is that he drugged and raped a 13-year-old girl in 1977. And he pleaded guilty and then fled the country and has never paid for his crimes since then. He's, like, considered a fugitive. And he still makes films and, like, wins awards for them to this day. He won an Oscar for The Pianist in the early 2000s. And he received, like, a standing ovation. Isn't that fucked up?
He's disgusting.
He's disgusting, yeah. So this is where we're going to kind of get into the discussion of the death of the author, art versus artist, and all that shit. And also, like, how weird it is that he's such a monster and, like, is known for being a pedophile and a rapist. But he created this movie that is such a great, like, metaphor, and all the themes are very feminist and very pro-women and pro, like, women's choice and all that shit.
Yep.
And I think, honestly, he's an asshole, but he did a good job translating the book.
Yeah.
Because after reading the book and knowing how faithful it is, I don't give his ass any credit for how good of a story this is and how strong its themes are.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel about this movie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of simple as that, to be honest. Yeah. I think that, like, you know,
I understand if, like, people don't want to watch it because
absolutely
knowing that, it's like, yeah, I totally get it.
That makes sense. Yeah. But the director isn't the only thing that goes into making a movie.
No.
You know, and I think that really the strongest part here is the story, the performances, the set design, and the costume design, as you pointed out. Yeah. And those are what make the movie. And Roman Polanski didn't have the fuck anything to do with that, besides, like, casting it and picking the people, but they all did all the work, you know? So, and Ira Levin is a great author. He created this story that has all these strong themes about gaslighting and the oppression of women and religious trauma.
No autonomy over their body.
Also, this movie has such a huge impact. You can't disregard that also, because it's one of the most influential horror films. It sparked all these occult movies like The Exorcist and movies about the devil and The Omen, like all of that wouldn't exist without the popularity of Rosemary's Baby. This movie even influenced films that are getting made in the modern era. Like Jordan Peele has cited Rosemary's Baby as a huge influence on him just in general, and it really influenced Get Out. Yeah. Which you can totally see, because that movie's all about like gaslighting and shit like that. And this movie is still referenced all the time in pop culture. Most recently on Drag Race, Rosemary's Baby Shower.
Baby shower. Baby shower.
Right. So that's fun. And also that haircut that Mia Farrow gets, that PIXIE cut, was like a huge movement, and people still refer to it as the Mia Farrow, which is pretty cool. Do you remember that episode of Top Model? When
you had to get the Mia Farrow.
Yes, remember? She was like, I said Mia Farrow and Rosemary's Baby, and you didn't commit to that haircut. And I'm going to disqualify you for that. Do you remember that shit? Like, she got disqualified.
I need to watch that season. Oh, see, I only usually watch Jade season.
I can't remember if it was Jade's season or not.
It's not.
It was sometime around that, yeah.
Because I watched that season all the time.
Yeah, I do. That's
because that has the best cast. It has the best cast. Yeah. We get Gina on it.
Gina, yeah.
Jade's amazing.
Jade's iconic. Yeah, I think that's cycle 6. Go watch cycle 6 of Top Model if you're in a Top Model mood.
It's so good.
But yeah, so this movie, hugely influential, cool backstory, spooky stuff going on. And now I'm excited to get into the plot.
Absolutely.
All right, girl, are you ready to scream?
Girl, let's scream.
Okay, so we open on the streets of New York City with some girly pink font. So you know it's going to be a cunty movie.
Yes.
And we get that iconic lullaby. La 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 la. That's Mia Farrow singing the vocals on that.
It was really good.
Cunty, right? It finally zooms in on the BRAMFORD apartment building. So we meet Guy Woodhouse and his wife, Rosemary. She's got a bob.
She's got a bob, and I love it.
She's got a bob and a dream, bitch.
Yes.
Okay? And we learn that Guy is an actor, but he mainly just does plays and TV work and commercials. And he's wanting to break out and do major motion pictures.
Yes.
And the two right away are very affectionate with each other. They really love each other, you know? They're a cute-ass couple.
Yes.
And you all, like, just automatically fall in love with Rosemary, I feel like.
Yes.
She just seems like such a sweet woman. She's very stylish. She's very trendy. She's funny.
Yep.
And they are touring this apartment building, the BRAMFORD. And the real estate agent explains that it used to belong to this old woman named Mrs. Gardenia. This apartment, 7E is the apartment number that they're looking at. And apparently she recently passed away after getting sick. She was in a coma in the hospital. And she was very into gardening. And she left all of these plants in the apartment, all these herbs and stuff. And it's kind of this, like, kind of witchy looking apartment at first. Like, it's kind of all dark and shabby. And there's clutter everywhere and all this old furniture.
Yep.
And Rosemary even finds a note that Mrs. Gardenia had written herself that said, "I can no longer associate myself, ... So that's interesting. These little nuggets. And that's what I love about this movie is when you go back and rewatch it, it reminds me of Get Out by Jordan Peele.
The little thing.
Is that all these little details that make it a really fun rewatch. So they also notice the real estate agent is like, oh, that's weird. I don't know why she moved this wardrobe in front of this closet. Like, there's, like, the broom closet.
Yeah.
And so they, like, move the wardrobe out of the way. And it's set up very spooky. You're like, oh, shit, what? Is there going to be a body or some shit, like, up in the closet? But it's just some towels and a vacuum, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they're like, why the fuck would she move that? So that kind of sets up a weird mystery. And I'm, like, riveted. Because I'm, like, I love a mystery. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to file this little closet in the back of my brain.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, there's a reason why they're showing us this, right? So Rosemary sees a lot of potential in the apartment, and she convinces Guy to agree to move in there. they go to have dinner with their current landlord, who is an old friend of Rosemary named Hutch. And he's this older gentleman. He's very smart. He's very, like, bookish. And he fixes them up a lamb, which symbolism right away. You know, you think sacrificial lamb, right? That'll come in later. And he tells them some spooky stories he's heard about the BRAMFORD. The Trench sisters were this pair of sisters who were famous for cannibalizing children.
Oh, okay. I am cannibal.
They loved Cannibal by Kesha. That was their go-to lip sync song.
They got some Yellow Jackets shit going on.
Very Yellow Jackets, right? But like with babies. Right. It's just normal chill stuff, right? There was also this guy named Adrian Marcato, who was a notorious witch, like a leader of this like witchy movement. And apparently he conjured up the living devil in the apartment. And he was killed by this like huge mob of people right outside the lobby of the apartment. So he's like, yeah, that's just some shit I've heard, and beware. It's like a harbinger of doom kind of thing. But Rosemary is all like, bad things happen everywhere. It's fine.
We're in New York City.
She's like, look, the apartment's cute. Okay.
But this is really cute.
It's really cute. She can like put a little
It's kind of like Murder House, where it's like they learned there was all these murders in the house. And they're like, ooh, but this is a really nice house.
Well, Murder House is extremely inspired by this movie.
Yeah.
Ryan Murphy saw Rosemary's Baby and was like, I'm doing that. Oh, and I forgot to say, apparently at some point, Hutch says that a dead baby was found in the basement, wrapped in newspaper. But the apartment's cute, okay? It's cute.
This is really cute.
It's cute.
But no laundry in unit. I would have been out.
I know.
I guess it was the 60s. I don't know how common it was, but like nowadays, I'd be like, oh, a white refrigerator and no laundry in unit. Oh, God, get your shoes on. We're going to find ourselves a home.
Nene leagues.
Ooh, the ghetto. The ghetto. I was shocked, honey. I was in tears almost. And they had a white refrigerator. I was like, oh, not a white refrigerator. Girl, please put your shoes on. Let's go find you a home, honey. Ooh.
So Rosemary and Guy move stuff into the apartment little by little. And the first night that they're there, you know, they're in the empty apartment at night. It's kind of spooky. Yeah. But it's like that traditional, like, we're going to get Chinese food and, like, eat on the floor of the apartment.
Yeah. Do you remember when I moved into my apartment, you came over and helped me and Ryan? And we just ordered pizza.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
It's just a tradition. You got to do it with the new home. Yeah. And the first night there, they hear one of the neighbor ladies yelling at her husband through the walls. And I wonder if this woman will come into play later. Mm-hmm. And they decide to, like, make love on the floor of the apartment. And it kind of gets all steamy. But then there's this, like, spooky fake out, where you hear some, like, noises. But then it's Guy, and he just makes a joke about, oh, I can hear the Trench sisters chewing. We get this montage of them moving into the apartment, and Rosemary transforms it into this beautiful modern home.
It's so gorgeous.
Oh my God.
There's so much color, and it's just so...
Like, cover of Architectural Digest.
Yes, it's just such a beautiful home.
Oh, and there are all these yellows.
Shit used to be so nice.
So nice. Oh, the furniture? The furniture was gorgeous.
I remember they said, like, the price of a chair at one point.
$200.
$200, and I'm like, but that's a fancy chair.
It's like, would go for like thousands of dollars nowadays.
That was like $200.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God, it's beautiful. That like whole mid-century modern look. It's so gorgeous. And she is just absolutely devoted to creating this beautiful home for her and her husband and their future kids. And you can tell that she just loves him. And she even gets really excited. Like, his commercial comes up on TV. She, like, runs over the TV to watch it. It's so cute. And while doing laundry in the basement one day, Rosemary meets a young woman named Terry, who is super sweet.
Yeah.
Love her. She's chewing gum. She's a, go-getter.
She used to be a drug addict.
Yeah, she was taken in by the Castevettes, who are the old couple who lives in the apartment that used to be connected to their apartment.
Yeah.
It was, like, turned into 2 units at one point. And she's the woman, the older woman who they keep hearing through the walls yelling. She's got a really funny voice. We'll get to her.
Yeah.
Terry, like you said, is a recovering drug addict who was rescued off the streets by them, and they're looking after her. She considers them like grandparent figures. Yeah. She even shows Rosemary a necklace that they gave her. And it's this like silver, like very ornate, like globe sphere thing. Yeah. It's got all these cool carvings.
Yeah. And then there's something inside it.
Yeah. There's like a plant in it.
And so right away I was like, that's creepy.
Yeah. Apparently it's called tannis root and it's for good luck, she says. And it has a shitty kind of smell. Rosemary like sniffs it and she's like, "Ooh, you smell that?
Y'all smell that shit?"
That necklace smelled like a toilet full of nasty ass shit.
Her breath smelled like straight up shit. It smelled like a toilet full of nasty ass shit, okay?
Her and Terry get along really well and they decide to meet up and do laundry together going forward since the basement is creepy. Mm-hmm. One night, while making out in bed, Rosemary and Guy overhear some strange chanting and the sound of like a flute or a recorder coming from the other side of the apartment wall. Spooky.
That's suspicious.
That's weird. And the way it's shot with like, because they have a candle lit in their bedroom and so like the walls are being like flicked with this like candlelight. That was spooky. Yes. I liked that a lot. While walking home later, they see a crime scene outside the apartment. And we see Terry's body.
Terry.
Diva down.
She jumped, apparently.
Yeah, she killed herself by like jumping from her apartment. Allegedly, right? I was like, damn. She diva down. That was maybe the fastest diva down in the history of this podcast.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Terry. And I was like, damn, Terry.
Oh, okay. I guess we're not going to see more Terry.
Right. It's like, I also didn't see it coming. It's just like, damn, Terry down.
She's down, yeah. So, yeah, apparently she killed herself. And then we meet Roman and Minnie Castevet, who are the old couple.
Hell yeah.
They're iconic. They're goofy.
Yeah.
They're eccentric. They're these doting old people. They're wearing pink a lot. And I am a color theory girl. I like to go into like what colors mean in film. I always find that really fascinating. And my theory is, because I looked it up and I couldn't find any theory on why they're wearing so much pink in this movie. But I think it's like red, obviously, is the color of evil, in film. And pink, famously, is a color that is used to calm people. Like, a lot of mental hospitals will have pink walls, like a soft baby pink.
Maybe it's to make them feel safe.
And I think it's to make Rosemary feel safe.
To get pink, you need red.
You need red. It's a light red, right? So it's kind of like a wolf in sheep's clothing sort of situation.
That's Parker. Look at you with the theories. I see what you're going with it.
Yeah, okay.
No, because color theory. And Polanski is very big on color. I'm
Absolutely.
Sure. I mean, like just from what this film is, I felt that a lot because she wears a lot of like bright pastels and whites throughout the film.
Because she's innocent and she's like baby dollish. Like all of her clothes make her look so infantilized.
Yeah.
And I think that that was not done by accident.
No,
I think again, it's the costume.
He's one of those people he was picky about every little thing.
And Roman and Minnie are shocked, quote unquote. They don't seem too shocked. Like, especially when you go back and rewatch this. It kind of feels performative that to find Terry dead here.
Yeah.
Like, Minnie's like, not possible. She kind of has this like matter-of-factness to her, right? And this also gives them a chance to meet Guy and Rosemary for the first time, who give their condolences. Earlier, we also had heard Terry say that her only other family member was a brother in the military. And they're asking Minnie and Roman, like, did she have any other family members? And Minnie's like, no, just us. And Rosemary's like, well, she actually told me she had a brother in the military. So it's kind of like like, are they being honest about Terry's situation? That night, Rosemary dreams of Terry's body. These dream sequences in this movie are probably my favorite dream sequences I've ever seen in cinema. I think that they're so well done. They're like surreal and like the way that the camera like is moving through things. It really does feel like you're in a dream.
Yeah.
We see this nun and she's talking, but she's like lip syncing to Minnie's voice. And I think this is because Rosemary's bedroom is on the other side of their apartment, of Minnie and Roman's apartment. So she's hearing their conversations and it's bleeding into her dreams. And Rosemary, I think the reason why she's dreaming about nuns is we learn later that she was raised Catholic. And I think she just has a lot of Catholic guilt. Yeah. Which I think will come into play later in the story for sure. Yeah. So she's always dreaming about nuns and like the Pope and shit like that and all this like Catholic imagery. And we also hear the voice of Minnie saying, I told you not to tell her in advance, Roman. I told you she wouldn't be open-minded. Which that's a clue for later. And I think that's in reference to Terry. The next day, Minnie stops by to say thank you to Rosemary for her kind words. Also, cool part where Rosemary's like looking through the peephole and Minnie's face is like completely blank and expressionless. She looks like soulless. And then the moment that Rosemary invites her in, she like warms up and is putting on this like kind of fake smile, I feel like. She lets herself in. Yes. That's Minnie's vibe. Yeah. We all know a Minnie in our lives, an older woman who just kind of asserts herself in situations.
Like, and you're kind of like afraid to question it because you're like, I don't know what she's going to do.
Right, exactly.
It's like when you're at the club and there's that one girl that comes up to you who's drunk and she starts dancing with you and you're like, you have to dance back a little bit because if you don't, she's going to get mad.
It's like this movie does kind of play on like the uncomfortableness of having to be polite in society.
That's the thing, because she like gets to a point where she's like about to crack. She's like, she's so nice I can't like say anything.
Right, yeah.
But like I need her to get out of
get out of my apartment because Minnie's walking around, she's asking the price of things, which is rude. Like you're not supposed to do that.
And she's also just, she wants, her excuse for wanting to go through is her friend used to live there and she wants to see what she's done with the place.
Mm-hmm, the woman who had all the plants and stuff who lived there before. And she, does this great job. Ruth Gordon is amazing at like making you love her, but also hate her. Yeah. She also had these little tics, like her tongue, like kind of does this like flicky thing, like a snake kind of, which I thought was kind of like devilish and fun. Little tics that she does. She learns from Rosemary that Guy is an actor. You almost see kind of like a light bulb like moment for her, and she goes, well, Rosemary, why don't you come over for dinner? We'll have me and Roman will have you guys over for dinner. And
she says something about like she has a steak.
She's got, listen, I got a steak. I'm thawing right now. And she says, I won't take no for an answer. So, out of politeness, Rosemary's like, okay, you can count on us. Yeah. That night, Guy comes home upset because he's lost out on a part that he really wanted. Apparently this part, he says, like, if I were to get this part, it would have opened up a lot of opportunities for me. It's like one of those roles that people really pay attention to, even though apparently the play is bad. Rosemary's like, well, that play sucked anyway. Yeah. But the actor's name was Donald Baumgard. He'll come back into play later, but he's the one who actually got the part. Damn. Rosemary convinces him to go to dinner at the Castavets, even though he's hesitant. He's like, I don't know if we should start a friendship with the old people who live on the other side of the wall, because then we won't be able to get rid of them. Which I get that. Yeah. That they do go decide and meet with the Castavets, and we learn that Roman is this like world traveler. He has been in almost every single city in the world. He's like, name a city, I've been there. He seems like a really nice guy. Yeah. You really, like, whereas Minnie is kind of annoying, Roman comes across as just like a very sweet old man. Yeah. And he has all these fascinating stories, and you understand why they would be warmed up to him during this. During dinner, they discuss the Pope coming to town. And we learn that Rosemary was raised Catholic, but is now somewhat kind of agnostic. She doesn't really know anymore. And Roman and Minnie are admittedly not into organized religion at all. And they think it's all showy and like kind of bullshit. Yeah. Roman admits that he is familiar with Guy's acting work. And that apparently he's like a big fan. And he like even calls out like an acting tick that Guy did that he thought was like cool. He was like, oh, you have nuance in your performance and shit like that. And he also says that his father was a Broadway producer with lots of connections to show business, and he'd love to talk to Guy about that kind of stuff. Coincidence? I think not, right?
Wow.
After dinner...
That's suspicious.
Right, that's weird.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
After dinner, Rosemary and Minnie are like washing up in the kitchen. And we learn that Rosemary is from a farm in Omaha. And she has 16 nieces and nephews. And apparently her family is quite fertile. And they want to have kids soon. And Minnie is really excited to hear this information. We see this shot while they're talking. Kind of like pans over to the living room. And we see cigar smoke kind of floating out of it. Mm-hmm. And we then see in the next shot that Roman and Guy are like intensely discussing something. They're like in armchairs smoking cigars. And I think that cigar smoke shot is suggestive maybe of something nefarious going on behind the scenes. It's like suggesting the presence of like hell or the devil with like this smokiness. Yeah. So they go back to their apartment after that, and they're kind of talking shit about Minnie and Roman. Yeah. But surprisingly, Guy is very intrigued by Roman's stories, and he wants to go back to hear more the following night. And Rosemary's like, really? Like, you, okay, sure, like, if you want to go, but I don't want to go. Right.
You can go do that. I'm a save bet.
I'm chill. Yep. Rosemary also notes that she saw that there were hooks on the walls of the apartment, but no pictures hanging up. She was like, why do you think they took down all their pictures? And he's like, what? I didn't even notice that. And she's like, yeah, there's all these spaces where there should be pictures, but they took them down, clearly. And the one picture that's there, it doesn't fit. It, like, looks awkward. And that makes sense because Rosemary, you know, she's designing her perfect dream apartment right now. So she's very into interior decorating.
Yeah, so she probably was like, ooh, let me see if I can take notes. And she was like, okay, what not to do?
Exactly.
She walked into that place and was like, oh, okay, so not this.
And it's cool because I didn't notice this until this past viewing, but like on the subject of that, Minnie and Roman's apartment is an exact mirror image of theirs, but it's just like, it's decorated completely different.
Yeah.
So the next night, Rosemary is sitting down to read. She's getting ready to have herself a lovely little night, but she's interrupted by Minnie, who rings the doorbell, and she's brought her friend Laura Louise, who I love this bitch, Laura Louise, the bitch with the big glasses that like, I love bitches who have glasses that magnify their eyes about like 20 times.
Yes.
And they post up on the couch and start knitting. I thought this was very Keaton behavior to bring like your knitting needle with you. And Minnie gifts Rosemary with the necklace that once belonged to Terry. And you can tell she's like, oh shit, this was the necklace that belonged to the dead girl. But she can't say that, obviously. She can't let them know that that's what she knows. But she takes it out of politeness. Again, it's like, okay, I'll just take it. And it's cute. She, like, puts it on. It looked cute with her turtleneck, I thought.
I don't think it's that cute of a necklace.
No, you were like...
It's like one of those things where it's also like, oh, not only did this belong to a dead girl, but it's ugly. Like, if it were a diamond necklace and it belonged to the dead girl, I'd get over it.
I thought it was cute, honestly.
But... No, it reminds me of those, like, shit that girls would get from, like, Hot Topic in, like, 2012. Like, when Hot Topic was not Hot Topic anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so then they're in the apartment, and Guy gets a call from his casting agency or whatever. We learn that Donald Baumgard, he's somehow gone blind, and so Guy has received this part by default now. And yeah, like, and I feel like this is when Guy, like, just out of context for later, he realizes, like,
what's going on?
It worked. You know what I mean?
For those who know, no.
Yeah. And he's like, oh shit, this really is going on. So a little later, Rosemary visits Hutch, their old landlord.
Yep.
And she vents to him that Guy has been distant since he got the part. And she kind of breaks down crying because he's just been too focused on his work. But when Rosemary gets home, the apartment is decorated with all these roses. And Guy is there. He reveals that he wants to have a baby. He feels bad for, like, being distant. And she gets really excited because that's all she wants.
Yeah.
To be a mom. And he's even been tracking her period. And has it scheduled out when her ovulation cycle is. And, like, when the best night would be to have a baby. But he doesn't want to talk to her. Okay. And we even find out that the perfect night for them to have a baby is that very night. Let's get it on. Let's do it. Let's have a baby. So she gets excited, and they have this, like, romantic evening that they plan. They put on some, like, jazzy records, and she makes this dinner. But just as they're about to get it on, basically, Minnie shows up at the door, and she has chocolate mousse desserts for them to try. She's not going to stay, but she just wants to try them. And she calls them chocolate mouses, which I thought that was fucking funny.
Yes.
And so Guy brings them into the kitchen, and they start eating. And Rosemary is like, I don't know if I like this. It has this, like,
Chalky undertaste.
She says. She doesn't want to finish hers. And then Guy, like, guilt trips her.
He gets really aggressive with her.
It's like the old bat slaved all day for him. You better eat it. Da-da-da-da. It's going to be a big thing. Da-da-da-da-da. And so she's like, fine. She eats it out of, like...
She takes, like, one more bite. And then he, like, gets up to leave. And she pours it into her napkin.
Her napkin. I'm not eating this shit.
I'm not eating this shit.
And then immediately, Rosemary starts to become very dizzy and faint. And she, like, falls over. And so Guy is like, oh, you've had too much to drink. And he puts her to bed. He starts, like, stripping her down of all of her clothes. And she's like, why are you taking my clothes off? And
he's like, I want to make you more comfortable. And she's like,
I am. She was wearing, like, a silk pajama set.
Yeah.
It looked very comfortable, right? She was also wearing red for the first time in this movie. The first and only time, which I thought was interesting. She'd be wearing red on this night. So... this is my favorite part in the movie, this dream sequence.
Yeah, but just warning, this is, like, kind of an essay.
Absolutely, yeah. Trigger warning here.
Like, major trigger warning.
Yeah. So first she's, like, laying on her mattress, but then we get shots of her, she's floating, like, at sea on her mattress.
Yeah.
So it's, like, showing her dizziness. And then she dreams that she's on a yacht with the Kennedys, like JFK and Jackie O are there talking to her. She sees Hutch, like, off at the dock, and he's not able to get on the yacht. And JFK is explaining to her, he's like, Catholics only. I'm sorry we're bound by these prejudices, but we just are. Da, 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 da. I think this is, like, her Catholic guilt creeping in, which is just always kind of happens. And suddenly there's this huge storm that breaks out on the ship, and she has to go below deck. And we see her floating underneath the Sistine Chapel. And she, like, goes right underneath, like, that part where it's God giving life to Adam. And she goes down, and she's in this, like, weird room. It's all dark and spooky. And then she finds herself laying naked down in front of a crowd of people. All these old people who are chanting. And they're all naked, and Guy is there, and Minnie and Roman are there.
It is getting weird.
Shit's getting weird. And again, you're like, I can't tell if this is still part of the dream sequence. Jackie Kennedy comes down this, like, ballroom stairs and is like, don't worry, Rosemary, everything's fine. Like, comforts her and shit like that. Then Roman takes some blood, and he draws symbols on her naked body. And... we see Guy being like, she can tell what's going on. And Minnie's like, if she ate the chocolate mouse, she'll be fine. No, shut up and start singing. And then this is when an out-of-frame, gargoyle-like creature appears and starts caressing Rosemary with its, like, weird claw hands. It starts, like, scratching her, like, down her sides and on her back. And we get these close-up shots of its eyes. It has these, like, scary, like, devil-y kind of eyes with, like, the kind of snake-like eyes. And Rosemary exclaims, this isn't a dream. This is really happening. They smother her with, like, a pillow. And she passes out. And then she has one more little flash of the Pope coming up to her and being like, Sister Mary Margaret told me that you were bit by a mouse and that's why you couldn't come see me. And she's like, yes, it was the mouse, Father. Am I forgiven? And he goes, yes, child, you're forgiven. And he holds out his ring for her to kiss. And it's the tannis root charm, the necklace thing that's on the ring. And everything goes black. Yeah, that scene is fucking incredible. And the sound design, too, there's, like, this ticking clock the whole time behind it. And the music is very, like, minimal. And it's just all sound effects. It's so spooky.
Yeah.
I fucking love it. It's truly one of my favorite dream sequences ever. So the next morning, Rosemary wakes up. She has all these scratches all over her back and sides. And this is crazy. Guy explains that it was him because he just had sex with her while she was passed out. And his nails were too long. Apparently he scratched her by accident. But he trimmed them down now. It's fine. And he just totally admits to, like...
Raping her?
Raping her in her sleep. But it was 1968, and marital rape, apparently I looked it up, was legal at the time.
Yeah.
So this movie kind of glosses over that. And we don't really linger on that too much at all.
She doesn't even act like it, because she even says, she's like, oh, I dreamt somebody was raping me.
Yeah. And then when he says that, when he explains that it was him, she was like, you did that while I was out? And she kind of, like, has this, like, moment where
she's like, we could have done it this morning.
Yeah, she's kind of, like, perplexed by it. But it's not, like...
And she just moves on.
And here's the thing, like, there's a lot of times where, like, older women will very openly talk about their experiences of being assaulted, and they have this, like, nonchalant way of talking about it. Because that's how society made you think back in the day. And, like, women, a lot of the time, were kind of brainwashed into thinking that that was okay.
Especially if it was, like, your husband.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, holy shit.
It's so crazy. It really dates this movie, but also, I think, plays really well into this movie, into the theme of it. Yeah. Because, again, you're like, I could see why in this world, in this time period, this sort of situation of all this gaslighting of Rosemary would work.
Yeah.
Because women were just always being gaslit. They were always being oppressed. They're always being lied to and put down.
Yep.
Which is so sad, but I think it makes this movie all the more brilliant.
Yeah. This is like such a feminist movie.
It really is, yeah. And you know what? The author, Ira Levin, he also wrote The Stepford Wives, which we should do soon, too.
Yes.
I want to do the original one because I really liked the book of Rosemary's Baby, and I'd be exciting to, like, get into that story, too.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's cool. So after that, Rosemary visits this doctor named Dr. Hill, who's this handsome guy. He was referred to by her friend, we learn. And he does some testing, and later he calls Rosemary to give her the news. She is pregnant, and she gets so, like, adorably excited.
Aww.
Like, she, like, takes the phone, like, away from her face, and she just has, like, a little moment where she celebrates herself. That was so sweet. And she's so excited to tell Guy, who, when she tells him, he immediately is like, oh, I want to go tell Minnie and Roman. And she's like, what? Like, why is that your first thing that you want to do? And so he immediately rushes them over to come congratulate her. And Minnie insists that she goes to see Dr. Saperstein, who is this obstetrician who apparently is, like, #1 in the city, and he's so good, and we can get, because we're friends with you guys, we can get you, like, a discount, and they hype him the fuck up. And Minnie even, like, calls this doctor and sets Rosemary up with an appointment without her even, like, asking to. It's all very, like, rushed and very sudden. And so Rosemary's like, okay, sure, like, sounds good. I'll go to that doctor instead. And that night, she even puts on the tannis root charm for extra good luck, because now she's like, okay, if I'm going to have a baby, I'm going to need all the luck that I can get. Rosemary goes to the doctor's appointment, and she meets with Dr. Saperstein, who right away sketched me the fuck out the first time I watched this, because he tells her, don't read any books, don't listen to any advice from any of your friends or family members. All pregnancies are different, so only get your advice from me. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to have you on any sort of, like, pills or medicine. I'm going to prescribe Minnie to make you a drink that you're going to have every day, and that'll have everything, all the nutrients you need for the baby. Yeah. And it's this weird, like, ranch dressing milkshake looking drink that she has. It's so gross that she has to drink every day. Yeah. Yeah. So that was, like, the biggest red flag the first time I watched this movie. I was like, well, the doctor's up to some shit. Yeah. It's, like, pretty obvious, I feel like. And Rosemary gets a cunty pixie cut. The Mia Farrow haircut.
I wish we'd seen her get the haircut.
Yeah. This is another editing thing. I agree with you. Like, this is an editing where I'm like, okay, yeah, that feels like out of nowhere. She shows up and they don't really acknowledge it that much that she got a haircut.
Yeah, he's like, what'd you do? And she's like, I got a new haircut. And he's like, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of brushed off. And that would be fine if it was like a slightly different haircut. She got a pixie. Yeah. That's like what you get when you break up with your long-term boyfriend, or like new year, new me. New year, new look, new me, you know? I don't know. Maybe it's just a different back in the day. Like, maybe
mental illness wasn't strongly correlated to getting a pixie cut.
Yeah.
Like it is now.
Yeah.
But if I see a bitch getting a pixie cut, I'm gonna ask her if she's okay. Right?
You good, girl?
But immediately Guy is like, oh, it looks ugly. He like starts like shitting on her new haircut. Which you never do that to somebody with a pixie.
No.
That's the last thing you want. If somebody gets a pixie, you tell her it looks great. You tell her she's got the face for it, even maybe she might not.
If you like it, I love it.
But you know what? You don't say that. You don't say that to a girl who got a pixie. Girl gets a pixie, you say, "Oh my god, you open up your face so much."
Oh my god, look at you!
Look at you. Not look at you. But that's real. That's kind of real, though. Yeah. And then Rosemary begins to develop this severe pain in her stomach.
Yes.
This kind of becomes a huge plot point where she's becoming very skinny and very weak. And they, the makeup, it's very 1968 makeup. But I think for the time, they did a good job of making her cheekbones look really hollowed out.
Yeah.
It was very Bella.
Yes.
In Breaking Dawn Part 1. When she broke her knees and then broke her back. Yeah, very that. I mean, Breaking Dawn is, I'm pretty sure Stephanie Meyer read Rosemary's Baby and was like, that's what I'm doing for this show.
That's what I'm going to do.
And she starts getting these weird cravings now. She goes and she gets like a lamb and she cooks it for like 0.5 seconds on the skillet and eats it like all bloody and raw.
Yeah.
Which apparently Mia Farrow was vegetarian at the time and she committed to it and she ate an actual raw like piece of lamb.
Ew.
Isn't that gross?
Gross.
But that's how committed she was. Hutch comes to visit her and is appalled at the sight of her. And everyone else around her is like, oh, you look fine, Rosemary. But she knows she looks like shit.
Yeah.
And this is Hutch kind of confirming it. And we learn that Dr. Saperstein is telling her that the weight loss is completely normal and that it should wear off in like a day or two. He keeps saying that. And Roman stops by and meets Hutch. And we get this weird scene where Rosemary notices that he has pierced ears and it zooms in on his earlobes, all like spooky.
Yeah.
And I thought that definitely dated the movie because I guess back in 1968, pierced ears on a man would suggest like some kind of deviousness. But nowadays, bitch, everyone has their ears pierced.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was kind of funny. Like,
see, I don't even think I noticed that.
she's like, I didn't even notice his ears were pierced. Later. So it's like a whole thing. Yeah.
Do you think he's,
Limp wrist.
limp wrist,
Yeah.
baby?
Roman meets Hutch. And at the mention of tannis root, because we're talking about that little tannis root charm, Hutch is all like, oh, I've never heard of that before. And he's got his encyclopedias. He's a smart guy, and he knows all about this kind of shit. And he says, let me see that. And he smells it. And he's like, this isn't an herb. This looks more like a fungus or like a mold. I don't know. I'm going to look this up. He's like sketched out by it for sure.
Yeah.
And Roman kind of gets up to go, and he says, well, I'm sure we'll meet again, Hutch. And the first time you watch this, you don't think about that. But the way he says, well, I'm sure we'll meet again, it's kind of spooky.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. So Roman leaves. And then Guy shows up early from his rehearsal. He has like his stage makeup still on.
Yep.
And as Hutch goes to leave, he notices that he's missing one of his gloves from his like coat pocket.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen my other glove? No? Okay, well, I guess maybe I left it somewhere else. And he goes. That night, Hutch calls Rosemary and asks to meet with her urgently the next morning. He has very important news. And Rosemary's like, well, can you just tell me over the phone? He's like, no, I gotta tell you this shit in person. And she gets off the phone with him and she's like, what the fuck? And Guy goes, I'm getting a craving for ice cream. I'm gonna step out. Do you want any ice cream? And she's like, no, I'm fine. And she like lays over in bed and we hear the doorbell ring. This is like a little Easter egg nugget that you wouldn't notice the first time. But it's Minnie and Roman's apartment. Their doorbell rings. And so I think Guy must have like known that something was up and that Hutch was like on to something that we'll talk about later when we get to spoilers.
Yeah. But
he immediately went over and like ran and told them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the next morning, we see that Hutch never shows up for their appointment together. And when Rosemary calls his office, she learns that Hutch has suddenly gone into a mysterious coma. And also you have to think about that woman at the beginning of the movie who used to live in their apartment. She apparently had gone into a coma. So that's another moment. We then see Rosemary in her kitchen and she's eating a raw liver. This was so gross. She kind of is going all crazy. Like she's having these weird cravings. She sees her reflection in her toaster and she realizes what she's doing and she throws up. She's like, ew, why was I doing that?
Disgusting.
Absolutely disgusting. Rosemary decides that she wants to throw a house party for all their younger friends they haven't seen in a while. And she tells Guy, she's like, and Minnie and Roman are not invited. Actually, you have to be under 60 to get into this party because she's tired of hanging out with all these fucking old people. Yeah. And she probably is catching on to the fact that they're all gaslighting her about her pregnancy pains. And so she wants to talk to her friends about it and get a second opinion.
Yeah.
And I love this scene because it's very girl power. All of her friends at the party.
Oh my God, they pull her into the kitchen and they're like, girl, we have to have a difficult conversation.
Hey, diva. You've been diva boots the house down a little too hard lately and we need to have a difficult conversation.
Hello, Diva Boots. I'm afraid we need to have a little bit of a tricky conversation. The fellow queens have realised that you've been queening out a little too hard. This is an interquention, and we think you need to go into some slight quarantine.
And Guy's trying to come in and they're they kick his ass out. They're like, nope, girls only. And he's being very adamant. He does not want them to talk to Rosemary by herself. And is being nosy the whole time. But they set her down. They're like, how long have you been in pain? She says since November. They're like, November? They're like, girl, that's not normal. Your doctor's lying to you.
Yeah.
Pain is a sign that something is wrong.
Yeah.
And you need to go to Dr. Hill, the doctor I told you about.
There's a difference between cramps and pain.
Pain. And she says she describes it as a hook inside her, a needle, and a needling pain is not good.
No.
And so they're like, you should go to that doctor that you originally went to that I recommended you to and get a second opinion.
Yeah.
And after the party, they're cleaning up, and this scene pisses me the fuck off because she's all okay, I'm definitely going to Dr. Hill to get a second opinion. And he goes, well, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't listen to your friend. He calls them bitches. He's like, did those bitches tell you that's what you should do?
The bitches?
Bitches? Oh, bitches. And he says, well, that's not fair to Dr. Saperstein.
Bitch, I don't care.
That pissed me the fuck off when I first watched this. And she goes, not fair. She's like, what about what's fair to me?
Yeah.
And she gets really worked up. And it's a moment where she's, you can tell she's made this decision. She's about to defend herself. But then immediately, the pain just stops. She gets shook and she starts rubbing her stomach. And he's like, what's wrong? And she's like, I can feel the baby kicking and the pain stopped and everything feels good now. And she gets all excited. It's finally. And I noticed that she's like, here, honey, do you want to feel the baby kick? And he kind of inches away from it. He's very hesitant. So I thought that was funny in retrospect. We get a montage of Rosemary feeling much better. Her pregnancy is progressing like normal. She returns to taking her daily drink from Minnie.
Ew.
And that nasty ranch milkshake, that was nasty. And they fix up a nursery. And it's so cute. She's picking out all the colors. And you just love Rosemary. I love seeing her
in her zone.
In her zone and committing to just building this lovely home for her family. And one day, Rosemary gets a call that Hutch has passed away. Diva down. So she feels so guilty that she never went and visited him. She's just been so worked up with the baby. So she goes to the funeral. And after attending the funeral, she is greeted by a friend of Hutch's who gives her this package that Hutch apparently, in his last moments, got together and wanted to give to Rosemary. And was, very urgently telling them, if I die, make sure Rosemary Woodhouse gets this shit. And she also says that Hutch wanted her to know, quote, the name is an anagram? And Rosemary's like, well, what does that mean? And the girl's like, I don't know. He was a little delirious. So maybe that's what it was. But anyway, here, he wanted you to have this. So Rosemary gets back to her apartment and she opens the package, which contains a book called All Them Witches. And it describes the history of witchcraft in New York City. A passage is underlined describing a fungus called devil's pepper, which is used in rituals and spell casting. And another passage is underlined describing Adrian Marcado, who was the famous witch leader, that was killed in the lobby of the apartment. And then there's a photo of Adrian Marcado with his son Stephen, and the name Stephen is underlined in the caption. So Rosemary starts to think about all this, and she thinks about the fact that he had said the name is an anagram. She goes to her Scrabble board, and she's rearranging all of the letters, and she's trying to make out an anagram. And eventually, she realizes that the name Stephen Marcado is an anagram for Roman Castevet, bitch. So Roman is the son of Adrian Marcado, the famous witch. So this begins Rosemary's whole frenzy into suspecting them as witches.
Yeah.
And they start to paint it as oh, she's being paranoid. And so really while you're watching this, especially the first time, it's hard to kind of... I was more leaning towards... No, they are fucking witches and they're gaslighting her.
Yeah.
But you could also lean towards...
Even when you know,
crazy.
you can see...
how it would come across.
Why she looks crazy.
Her paranoia, yeah. Which I think they do a really good job.
Yes. Everything just seems like paranoia at this point. Even the pain is she's just paranoid.
Exactly, yeah. And again, it's we're in this time period where everything women say is disregarded anyway. So it really could go either way. It's really interesting. So when Guy gets home that evening, she shows him the book and she tells him that she suspects that Minnie and Roman are witches. She believes that they have been scheming and might want to use their baby for a ritualistic sacrifice, which apparently covens do. Guy defends Roman, and he says that he was probably just embarrassed by having a father like that, and so he changed his name, but that doesn't make him a witch, da-da-da-da-da. And he prevents her from reading the book any further. He, puts it on the top of the bookshelf and is like, you're driving yourself into a frenzy, you don't need to read this anymore. Mm-hmm. So Rosemary goes to Dr. Saperstein, and she reveals to him all of her suspicions about the Castevets. And Saperstein is kind of oh, okay, well, that's, thank you for letting me know. That's interesting, and I wouldn't have thought of that, and that kind of makes sense. And he's but I did want to let you know, Roman and Minnie are actually planning on leaving the country because Roman's dying. He didn't want anyone to know this, but he has this, disease or something, and he only has a month to live. And so immediately she starts to now feel guilty. So she's oh, I feel bad now because I didn't realize Roman was sick, da-da-da-da-da. So they send Minnie and Roman off on their travels, and Rosemary learns that Guy threw out her witch book that Hutch gave her, which even if she was driving herself into a frenzy, her friend left her that before he died, and you just threw it out? And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, honey, I didn't think about that. And she's like, bitch, that was my friend's book. What the fuck are you doing? Yeah. So this immediately makes her suspicious again. And she starts to realize that maybe Guy's in on it. And she gets really paranoid. She goes out and she's walking through traffic. And apparently Roman Polanski actually made Mia Farrow do this. He was like, no one's going to run over a pregnant woman. Just go out there and we'll film you. And all the, stunt people and all of the, cinematographers were we're not doing that. So he had to film it himself. But Mia was so committed. She was like, sure, whatever. She was like, you're probably right. And she, looked like a pregnant lady. She's like, we'll just do it. I mean, the shot's cool. But, damn, at what cost? She could have gotten really injured.
But she did it.
She did it. And she's, stumbling around. She's almost getting hit by cars. She takes off her tannis root necklace and she throws it into the sewer. She's like, fuck that shit. And she goes to another bookstore and she gets another book about witchcraft.
Yeah.
So she's reading that and she learns that covens can actually make people go blind if they want to. and that you need a personal possession of a victim in order to perform a spell on them. So she starts thinking, okay, well, Hutch lost his glove.
They took his glove.
They took his glove and probably used that to do a spell. So she's like, I wonder if that guy who went blind, Donald Baumgard, the actor, I wonder if Guy happened to have a possession of his. So she calls him, and she learns from him that they had switched neckties at one point. So Guy had his necktie. So he probably used that to do a spell. And so she's like, okay, well, I bet Guy probably made a deal with Minnie and Roman, and they put a spell on this guy and turned him blind, and that's why Guy is now having success.
Yeah.
So Rosemary packs up a suitcase, and she goes to Dr. Saperstein's office. And she's going to tell him about the whole scheme. And while waiting in the waiting room, she opens up the Time magazine that has the front cover. It says, "Is God Dead?" on it. This was a real magazine, and it was just about like the movement away from Catholicism in America.
Yeah.
And then this is in the book too. It was smart of him to like include that.
Yeah.
Because the rise of like the occult and all that shit was really popular during this time. And I think that also ties it into like the Manson cult and all that shit.
I mean, yeah, because that's when this shit was going down.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really fascinating, right? That's even something that was like in the news at the time. And while she's waiting, the nurse notices that Rosemary isn't wearing her necklace. She's like, "Oh, you smell much better," which I thought that was kind of funny. She was like, "If you don't mind me saying, you used to smell like shit. And I love your new perfume." And she's like, "Oh, I was wearing this like tannis root thing." And she goes, "Oh, well, Dr. Saperstein wears that." So now she's like, "Oh shit, Dr. Saperstein is probably a witch too if he's wearing tannis." So she freaks out and she leaves the office. Which I kind of was like, well, duh. I'm a little surprised in the story that Rosemary didn't put that together sooner. But anyway, she gets there at this point. And she runs out to this phone booth and she calls Dr. Hill, her original doctor.
Yeah.
And she's explaining to him, like, I gotta meet with you urgently. There's a plot out against me and my baby, and I need your help.
Yeah.
And he agrees to meet her, like, right away. And there's this tense scene. I love this part. Where it looks like Dr. Saperstein is, like, waiting outside the phone booth. You see, like, the back of his head. Then he turns around and it's just like a stranger. But that was so tense. It was so spooky.
Yeah.
And apparently that guy, the like random friendly stranger, is William Castle, the producer of this movie.
Oh, from
the Tingler.
Tingler.
Yep.
My goodness. That's fun.
So she goes to Dr. Hill and she explains everything about the coven. And she's like, I know I sound crazy, but she's putting it all together for him. And she's like, they're after me. They're after my baby. They're witches. Da-da-da-da-da.
But he's like, she's like, you believe me, right? He's like, not completely about the witches, but I know people will do some weird shit in this city.
Right, exactly.
He's like, listen, I wouldn't be surprised if people were trying to get your baby from you.
And he tells her, he's like, I will help you. And just lay down for a minute. And we'll get you ready to have your baby. And you're with me and everything's fine. And she's so relieved. And she's like talking to her baby. She calls her baby Andy or Jenny. Because she doesn't know if it's going to be a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
And she's like, everything's going to be fine. And oh my gosh, God bless Dr. Hill. And she has this dream of being with her baby. And she's surrounded by all of her family members. And she's back home in Omaha. And I thought this was so beautiful. Because I feel like you can tell that and maybe this was more explained in the book and I can't remember. But I have this like feeling that she is no longer close with her family because she isn't Catholic anymore. And her attempts at having a baby was also partly to bring her closer with her family again. And I think that's what she really wants, is to like be closer with them. This scene kind of broke my heart because after she has that dream, she wakes up and Dr. Hill comes in and he's with Dr. fucking Saperstein and fucking Guy. And he ratted her out to them.
Yeah.
Fuck men, okay?
Yeah.
Fuck men. This was so fucked
Dude,
up.
if she had a female doctor,
They would have understood.
the female doctor would be like, okay, I don't know if your
husband can be trusted.
trust it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if like what you're saying is all true, but clearly you do not want to be around your husband.
Yeah. So he just routed her out. And so like they come in and they threaten her. They're like, don't make a move, don't make a scene, or we'll put you in a mental institution. Do you want to have your baby in a mental institution? I don't think so. So come with us and everything will be okay. So poor fucking Rosemary has to like go back with them, and she goes back to the apartment. I feel so bad for her.
Because she's like in a state of shock at this point, kind of.
Yeah. She totally thought everything was going to be okay.
And she's like, oh my God.
He just fucking ratted me out. Yeah. So they get to the apartment, and she manages to get away because she like spills all of her shit out of her purse. And so the men are like trying to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so she runs to the elevator and she takes it up to their apartment. She locks them out.
Yeah.
She's on the phone. She's trying to call. She should have called the cops, I think. But she calls Elise, her friend, who I guess was like one of the main friends that was consoling her earlier. But she doesn't answer the phone. But we see some bitches tiptoeing behind her in the apartment.
Yes.
There's people in her apartment. This was scary as
Yeah.
fuck. She doesn't see them at first, but then she starts to like kneel over, and we realize she's like giving birth. She's going into labor. And then suddenly all these people just pop out. And they're like, hey, we're here. The one lady's like, we're your friends, Rosemary. It's okay. Don't be scared. It's like, bitch, I've never seen you before.
Who are you?
Right? And then Saperstein and Guy come out, and they like hold Rosemary down, and he gives her a sedative and knocks her out. And I feel so bad because she's also like, while she's passing out, she's like, it wasn't supposed to be like this. It was supposed to be in a doctor's hospital, clean and sanitary. And poor Rosemary.
Yeah.
And what I hate is she was not present for the conception of her baby. That was horrible. And now she's not going to be present for the birth either.
Yeah.
It's devastating.
And this is, I think, a lot, like the whole pregnancy, I think, is can be viewed as like women's choices.
Absolutely.
And like a woman's right to choose, because she didn't get to choose her doctor. She wasn't getting to choose where she had her baby. Like, she had no control over this pregnancy.
Yeah.
And that's like the thing like that I think is lost a lot when people think like, because people think so much when pro-choice is just, oh, you can have an abortion. It's like, no, it's like having complete autonomy over what happens to you. And if you choose to go through with the pregnancy and like everything involved in it.
Yes.
Like, it's your decision. And I don't think it should be other people involved.
No, 100%. And I think that this really hits nowadays in like a post Roe v. Wade overturn time period that we're living in. And like in Trump's America, it's like, how much autonomy do we have at this point? And this story really hit me watching it now.
Yeah. Because even the like being assaulted and having to give birth to your assaulter's child.
Exactly.
Like, it's like, there's so much about it.
Yeah. I think Ira Levin just really ate with this book and with the themes here. So when Rosemary comes to, Guy tells her that she has given birth to a baby boy. And she's so excited to hear that, and she's so exhausted she falls back asleep. And when she comes back to, Laura Louise, glasses bitch, is sitting there. She's reading the magazine with the magnifying glass, which was Cam. And she's like, where's my baby? And Laura Louise is like, don't worry, I'll go get the doctor. She's like, no, where's my baby? She's like, I'll be right back. I'm going to get the doctor. So she goes and she gets the doctor, and they come in, him and Guy, and they explain to her that the baby has died. There was complications. Rosemary freaks the fuck out because she knows that they are fucking liars. And she's like, you're lying. You're lying. Mia Farrow is like so unhinged in the scene. I love it. And they sedate her again and knock her out. Over the next several days, Rosemary is given pills to make her drowsy and bedridden. And Guy just continues to gaslight her about the whole thing.
Yep.
He explains that his career is taking off, though, and soon they'll get to move to LA, and I'll be in the movies, and we can try and have a baby again. Everything's going to be okay, so don't even be sad. Da-da-da-da-da. And Rosemary starts hearing a baby crying from nearby.
Bitch, what?
She starts hiding her pills that they give her in like the crack of the wall.
Yep.
So that she can regain her strength. And we see Laura Louise has been helping her drain her breast milk. And she's like, well, what are you doing with the milk afterwards?
Oh, we're just dumping it. We're just getting rid of it.
And so Rosemary goes, okay, if we were dumping it here. And she takes her dirty spoon and she tries to put it
in the milk.
And Laura Louise goes, oh, don't do that.
And she's like, why? And she's like, oh, it's just far too messy.
It's just messy. So Rosemary she knows.
She's like, bitch, you're taking my milk. Because if I put it in there, the milk would not be sanitary, so they can have it.
You've got my baby. You've got my baby. So, again, she's saved up all of her strength, and she waits for a moment where she's alone. And she sneaks out, and she goes to the closet from earlier. Yeah. The fucking closet that was covered by the wardrobe. She's kind of like analyzing it. She realizes that it is a fucking secret passageway into Minnie and Roman's apartment. Because that's probably where it was connected before
they got in there.
They got converted into 2 units.
Yep.
Yeah. And the woman at the beginning who originally owned the apartment, she moved that wardrobe up against the closet and she wrote that whole message to herself, I can no longer associate myself. Because she probably was like, I don't want to be involved with this witch shit anymore. This is fucked up. And so they cast a spell and put her ass in a coma, and she died because of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is when everything is starting to come together, and I get so excited because the mystery-loving part of my brain is starting to fill in all the holes. And that's really fun. So she arms herself with this big-ass kitchen knife. And there's this tense scene where Guy comes in for a second to get ice, and so she has to hide from him. And then the cradle is rocking, and she uses the knife to stop it so he won't hear, like, the creaks of the cradle. And all the music is, like, really quiet, and it's spooky.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes through the secret passageway. And now she's in their apartment, and she's noticing that they have all their pictures hung up now. And it's all Satan shit.
Yep.
It's like the city on fire and like statues of Satan and people worshiping Satan. It's Satan.
Satanists.
Yep. She goes into their living room and there's this big party with all these fucking Satan worshiper people. And Minnie and Roman are there and Guy's there. And everyone just like turns and they like look at her. It's like, hey, how y'all doing?
How y'all doing?
It's kind of awkward.
How y'all doing?
And then I love it because Laura Louise is the one to break the silence. She just screams. She's like, ah!
Doesn't she say shut up? Like tell her to like shut up.
Yeah, she's like, shut up. You're all Satan worshippers. Because Rosemary's had it at this point.
Yeah.
She's like, shut the fuck up. Where's my baby? She sees there is a black bassinet with an upside down cross hanging above it. And she goes up to look at her baby. We don't see the baby.
No.
But she's horrified and she turns around.
The look, it's such an iconic... Like, we talk about, like, iconic screams in a horror movie. She doesn't scream.
Oh,
the
her
look she
eyes
gives.
go so wide. And she turns, like, pale as a ghost.
Yeah.
And she says, what have you done to its eyes? That's so spooky. And we get, like, a really quick flashback to the eyes of the devil that we saw earlier during the rape scene. And they're, like, you know, red. And they have, like, the snake eye kind of irises. So just you don't have to see the baby to know what the baby looks like. And that shit is so scary.
Yeah.
I loved, and this thing about older movies is that it was they let you put together the pictures in your mind. You didn't have to see everything. And sometimes that is the scariest shit, right?
And then one of them, it's either Roman or Minnie says, he has his father's eyes.
Yeah, Roman says, he has his father's eyes. Satan is his father. And this is when we learn, no, they weren't trying to use the baby for a ritual. They were using her to give birth to the devil's baby.
Yeah.
So this is the Antichrist. And they're going to call him Adrian, based off of Roman's father, Adrian Marcato. And they all start exclaiming, Hail Satan! Hail Satan! Yeah. Travis loves, I watched this with Travis, and he loves that older woman who's got a big smile, and she goes, Hail Satan!
Hail Satan!
She's all excited. Yeah. This scene was kind of campy.
Yeah. Oh, it's very funny campy.
You can see, like, William Castle's influence here the most, I think. Because it really is like, well, these people are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
You can't help but laugh. And Rosemary is just freaked the fuck out. And Roman comes up and he tries to console her. And he says...
He chose you?
He says he chose you. You know, out of all the women in the world, you were the one he wanted to have a baby with. And I want you to help us. Join us, Rosemary. You can
you're gonna be spared.
You can be his mother. You should be his mother. He was like, Laura Louise and Minnie are too old, and we need a proper mother for the baby. And she just doesn't even know what to say to that. She's shocked. Then Guy's ass tries to come up to her, and he's all like, listen, honey, this shit made me so mad. He's like, they told me that you weren't going to be hurt, and you really haven't been. Even though she was in, like, ridiculous amount of pain for months.
Drugged and
then she was
sedated multiple times.
She was sexually assaulted. She was scratched. She's been hurt a lot. Okay.
She's also gonna have mental trauma from this.
Yeah, she's so traumatized. Like, what the fuck do you mean you haven't been hurt? And he's like, and now we're gonna have this big life and my career's gonna take off and da-da-da-da. He says, it'll be like as if, you know, you just had a miscarriage. And is that really so bad? And she spits in his face.
Fuck you.
It's so fucked up. But it is fun to see her just...
She's done with him.
She's so done with him. He thinks they're going to, like, continue their marriage. She's like, no, fuck you. And for the rest of the film, he kind of just cowers in the corner and, like, no one talks to him.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Because all of this happened because of him.
Mm-hmm.
He sold her out for fame.
Yeah, exactly.
And when also you realize, because Minnie had said... we hear in the dream to Roman, like, oh, you shouldn't have, like, tried to rush her into it. They're talking about, was it Terry?
Terry.
I think they were going to use her for a vessel originally.
She was the original, going to be the mother, yeah.
And I think that's why they didn't do it right away, because she was a drug addict. They probably had to make sure she was, like, clean for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So...
that's why they rehabilitated her.
Yeah.
And when she found out, when they told her, she was obviously not okay with it, so she killed herself.
Yeah.
And that's why when Rosemary came into the picture and they learned that Guy was an actor who could be easily manipulated for fame and fortune.
Yeah. They're like, oh, hell yeah, we're going to get what we want.
Fell right into their laps. Yeah.
Yep. Wrong place, wrong time.
Wrong place, wrong time, which is so scary. So Rosemary is shocked by all this. She's processing and she's watching Laura Louise rocking the fuck out of that baby cradle.
Like, damn, Ma, is it that serious?
I know, she was rocking out hard. I'm like, I know it's a Satan baby, but like, still.
Slow down.
Bitch. And Rosemary's like, you're rocking it too hard. Let me do it. And Laura Louise is like, fuck you, bitch. She like sticks her tongue out of her.
Roman's like, no. She's the
Laura
mother.
Louise. Let her do it.
And then she like walks by and she sticks her tongue out.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Love Laura Louise. She's campy. She's a diva. She might be like, if we ever do top 10 divas or whatever, we do, she might be a diva. So then, Rosemary starts rocking the baby and Roman's talking to her and she goes, what, you want me to be its mother? And he says, aren't you his mother? And she's looking at the baby and her face begins to sort of soften as her mothering instincts kick in. And the lullaby, la, 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 starts playing again as the camera pans out the window and into the streets of New York. And the end. Okay, that movie is so fucking good.
Yeah.
I love talking about it. I love going through all the little details, little nuggets.
Because it is one of those, it's like how Scream is, how Get Out is, where like when you go back and rewatch it, you just see all these little details and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that, look at that, look at that.
Yeah, I was clocking things left and right.
How it feels to clock a gag.
Right? Me rewatching this movie, I was clocking gags left and right.
Yeah.
So, I would recommend not watching this movie once, but twice, because you'll really get the full experience of catching on to all those little things. I'm sure there's some things, too.
And it doesn't feel, it's long, but it does not feel long.
No, because you're riveted the whole time.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God.
I do think this is, like, honestly paced very well for the length, like, compared to last week's movie, which was too long.
I agree. No, this is paced lovely. Yeah. And, like, the editing stuff you mentioned at the beginning...
It does not ruin the movie. It just is my only thing that I'm like, I noticed it a couple times and it just kind of like was like, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, it's not like a perfect movie by any means, but oh my God, is it so good.
Yeah.
And I completely understand why it's considered as one of the greatest horror movies. And it's influenced so many. Yeah. Oh, this one is like top 5 for me. Like it immediately, I was like, yep, it's up there with Carrie. It's up there with Texas Chainsaw.
It's great.
It's so good. So yeah, go see Rosemary's Baby if you've never seen it. It's such a treat.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that has been this week. For next week,
we're going to be doing a recent film.
Yes, I'm excited. It's our first 2025 film, and it's a movie we saw last week and absolutely fucking loved.
Sinners.
Yeah, I'm
really,
excited.
really great horror movie.
I'm going to probably do a little research for that too, because there was so much like theming and symbolism.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm excited for another kind of like meaty, informational, educational podcast next week. So go see Sinners in theaters now while you can, and we will discuss it next week. All right, girl. Well, that's it for this week's podcast.
Yes.
I don't think I have anything else to say about... I mean, I'm sure I could talk about Rosemary's Baby for a long time.
Yes.
But
I know you love this one.
I know. But for now, I've gabbed on about as much as I can. Okay?
All right, y'all.
So thank you so much for joining us today on Let's Scream. We hope you had a fun time with us at the BRAMFORD. Please remember to follow the pod, like the pod, and leave a glowing review of the pod, of course. You can also send us movie requests for future episodes. You can follow me at Parker_Will_C on Instagram.
And you can follow me at StevieNash95 on Instagram.
Yes, and you can follow the podcast on @Let'sScreamPod on all socials. And until next time, this has been
Let's Scream. Bye.